Perhaps, Mr. Stonecrop, you are depending too much on... Perhaps, Reverend, if you want a town to preach to, you should begin to use some of that influence we understood you had. We need to be done with this business, and done quickly. Write to Governor Plaisted this very day. Tell him the situation. I know things move slowly up to Augusta, but good Lord, the state declared 6 years ago that it would adjudicate Malaga Island. 6 years. It's time to get things moving. Tell him that. I could write to him. Today, Reverend. Mr. Stonecrop, tourism is at best a chancy business. It is the only business left to us. The only business once the shipyards fail, as they will within a year. Write the letter. Mr. Stonecrop blustered out of the house, and Turner and his father watched him take the street by right of possession. There wasn't a sea breeze anywhere near him, and if there had been one, it would have been trampled into the dust of Parker Head until it wasn't anything but a puff or two. Reverend Buckminster stood still, watching the striding Mr. Stonecrop, who had paused by Mrs. Hurd's house and was gazing up at it as if to appreciate its value. A long sigh. Go get your breakfast, he said finally. I have a letter to write this morning, and you've got 100 lines of Virgil to translate. The lines turned out to be 100 dull ones, as Aeneas, Turner thought he finally had the spelling down, moped about and looked for a place to live. With Robert Barclay in front of him, it promised to be an even duller afternoon. Turner figured he had had enough of Robert Barclay's tormenting propositions, more than enough to satisfy any human being, and he said so. And as if to prove that miracles can happen on a dull day, Reverend Buckminster agreed. When they came back to the study after dinner, his father closed the door, something he hardly ever did, and reached for a volume in the glassed case behind his desk. He weighed it in his hand. He looked at his son as if trying to make up his mind. Finally, he did. Turner, he said, books can be fire, you know. Fire? Fire. Books can ignite fires in your mind because they carry ideas for kindling and art for matches. He handed the book to Turner. The Origin of Species, he read aloud. Is this fire? His father laughed, and Turner suddenly realized that this was the first time he had heard him laugh since they had come to Maine, the very first time. It is a conflagration, he said. Turner looked steadily at him. Should a minister's son be reading this? Who better, said his father. Besides, your mother says that maybe First Congregational doesn't need to know everything we're thinking. He laughed again. Whatever would Deacon Hurd say if he knew you were reading Charles Darwin? Turner felt as if the world was suddenly a more mysterious place. He had never before thought that there were things he ought to be doing that might cause, well, fire. When he opened the book and began to read, he was Jim Hawkins at the captain's chest, Sinbad opening his eyes in the Valley of Rubies, Huck himself waking up to a brand new bend in the Mississippi. And it wasn't long before he knew that what he was reading was fire, all right. It was almost like lighting out for the territories.